Yo, what's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Off the Rip. I'm going to be talking about Daytona Supercross. I actually got to go see it live and in person, so that was really cool and really fun. Biggest takeaway I got from watching it live was that it was a gnarly track, so rutted. I can't believe these guys were just going for these rhythm sections. It was all rutted out, and they were just busting out these jumps. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about some of the wild moments that happened at Daytona, talk about my RM fantasy picks, talk about who's gaining momentum now that we're halfway through the season in that 450 class, and then looking ahead in the 250 class, looking at the big three from the West versus the big three from the East going down in Indy next week. So, or actually this week, my bad. So let's get into it in this episode of Off the Rip. So looking at the wild moments, starting off, Cody Schock. He's just a gymnast or something because he was busting out front flips and looping out, going backwards. But first crash in that rhythm section, does a front flip, lands on his feet. He's safe, 10 out of 10. Then same rhythm, next qualifying session, loops out on the roller. So tough time in that rhythm section for Cody Schock. Hardy Munoz, the kid that just sends it, he goes big. That's all I'm going to say. He's got big balls, and he goes big for sure. He sent that roller, or that sky shot that Ricky called it, in practice. He was the first one to do it. He did it in the race, first lap, heat race. Hasn't touched the track yet. Just sends it. I got that on video, so that was pretty cool. Cooper Webb sends it in qualifying out of the rhythm section before the sand section. He tries tripling out. He came up a little short. I didn't see anybody do that the entire day, and I didn't see him do it again. I think it maybe wasn't the fastest. So still wild to see him bust that out. And then get into the night show. Bryce Shelley, first heat in the whoops. Gnarly crash. Chase Sexton eats it in that rhythm section right after the start. It was just crazy because it was right after the first turn, and he goes down, and you know how it went in Dallas for him. So pretty wild for Chase. And then he had to go to the LCQ, but in that LCQ, Jeremy Hand came up crazy short in the rhythm and goes off the track. In that 250 main event, Levi Kitchen, holy moly, that was a huge crash. It looked super gnarly live, looks crazy on TV. I watched it back and I'm like, ouch, man. He got pretty lucky that he only broke a collarbone. Pretty gnarly to say, but just collarbone and fractured vertebrae. So those were pretty much all the wild moments. I mean, let's count Ken Roczen doing it big, right? First time ever winning in Daytona, so we'll count that as a wild moment as well. So those were all the wild moments from Daytona. Let's talk about my RM fantasy picks. So for fantasy, I was like, man, Chase Sexton's going to come out swinging. He's going to be blowing everybody's doors off. And that wasn't the case. But I picked him for the first. I put Chase for first because, man, he was going to have to get redemption, right? Second, I had Cooper Webb. Looked super solid all day. He was ripping. If Chase didn't get a good start and Coop got the whole shot, he was going to be hard to beat. So either one or two, but Chase, like I said, redemption. So I put Coop for 2. Third, I had Jake Coop, Justin Cooper, fast in qualifying. Sometimes you see guys that aren't normally on the podium. They're at that race, so I thought he was going to be that guy. Fourth place, I had Ken Roczen. I doubted him. Not the best scores in Daytona in years past, though. So, you know, I thought maybe the podium's going to be out of the reach tonight. Or podium was going to be out of the reach that night, but that was definitely not the case. He pulled off the win. Then at fifth place, I had Justin Hill. He's been building every single race. That top 5 is becoming more familiar for him. He came out leading in practice. Actually in both sessions, he came out leading everybody. So I was like, all right, he's feeling pretty confident. Top 5 for sure. 7th wild card pick, I put Jason Anderson. That one was kind of tough. I was a little close. He finished 8th. If you put Chase Sexton for the win, I feel your pain. So Anyway, let's move on and talk about this 450 class. All right, so now that we are halfway through the Supercross season, let's look at some of the riders who are gaining momentum, who are building, and their trajectory is going up instead of down. First one to look at, Aaron Plessinger, pulling off at third place in Daytona. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's the fans that really get him riled up. Maybe it's the track that he likes. Maybe it's a combination of both, or maybe it just finally clicked for AP. But he's been struggling all season long. Cool to see him finally pull off, get a podium, and especially at Daytona, that was sick, right? We've seen it in years past. If he gets a good result, he kind of just builds off of that, and he keeps on getting better results, and he kind of stays near that podium. So can we see AP string together some good races going forward, or from here on out? Another rider, Justin Hill, like I mentioned before, he came out first in qualifying, or he came out leading the pack in qualifying. He's building, he's getting closer and closer to a podium spot. So I think a podium spot is definitely in Justin Hill's reach. Cooper Webb did exactly what he needed to do. He extended the points lead over Chase Sexton. Cooper Webb almost had the win, but made those mistakes. Probably figured, I'll just take a second. And then, like they always say every single year, whoever that rider is leaving Daytona with the red plate, most of the time goes on to win the championship. So this could be Webb's championship in 2025. But we have Ken Roczen nipping at his heels. Now that we have Ken Roczen trying to close that points gap, it's getting more interesting, so we love to see it. So anyway, let's move on, talk about this 250 class. So in the 250 East, there has been a red flag every single race. There's been 3 races, and all 3, red flag has gone out. But anyway, big 3 versus the big 3 on the East versus the West. We got Bauemer, Deegan, Davies on the West. We got Anstie, Hampshire, and Vialle on the East. Deegan needs to extend. Bauemer needs to close in on the points. And Davies, well, he just wants to get a win. He's kind of out of it. But it would be huge for him to pull off a win at this East-West showdown. On the East, Max Anstie needs to extend the points lead just like Deegan, so he's going to be going for it. But then you have RJ, who needs to close this gap down. And then the same thing, Vialle wants to get his first win of the season, and then he wants to overtake this points lead. So it's going to be an all-out duel at this East-West showdown in Indy. It's going to be crazy. I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to see what is going to happen. I think something big might happen. We're going to see some shakeup because there's going to be the best of the best from both coasts going at it. If you get a bad start, passing these riders is not going to be as easy as it is normally. It's just going to be a crazy race, man. It's definitely not going to be a sleeper. So anyway, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and I'll be here next week on Off the Rip to talk about Indy with y'all. Peace.